everyone, and thank you so much for joining in on the June episode of the Amplify Horse Racing Hangouts. I'm your host, Anise Montpleasure. I run Amplify Horse Racing. If you've never heard of that before, if you're completely new to this, Amplify Horse Racing is a 501c3 to promote education and careers in the thoroughbred industry. And you have landed on our awesome monthly virtual event, the Horse Racing Hangouts, which is exactly how it sounds, a hangout with thoroughbred industry professionals to teach you about their careers. This is actually the second season of the Horse Racing Hangouts, and our theme of this season is back to the basics. So that really means, in addition to talking about careers in the thoroughbred industry, our professionals that we have joining us will always be talking about fundamental skills that you need to basically reach those careers. Our theme for tonight is breeding farm operations. So what is it really like to work on a thoroughbred breeding farm? What does that mean? What are the different jobs that it takes, or the different teams necessary to operate a thoroughbred breeding farm? We have two awesome professionals joining us who I will introduce in just one moment. But before I really dive into that, I have a big announcement tonight. This last Monday, we officially launched the Amplify Horse Racing Mentorship Program, which has been a big goal of the Amplify Horse Racing team ever since we became a thing. A common way that people end up kind of finding their way into the thoroughbred industry and establishing their pathway into a career is by finding a mentor. So we really felt that it was important to make that connection even easier for people who want to get involved. And so we now actually have a formal mentorship program that we are piloting for 18 to 22-year-olds. So you can check that out by visiting amplifyhorseracing.org/mentorship. Also, to anyone out there who has an interest in becoming a mentor, for this first pilot, we do have our mentors already locked down, which is awesome to have that kind of support. But in the future, when we offer more mentorship rotations each year, we are going to need even more mentors. So on that same page, amplifyhorseracing.org/mentorship, you can scroll to the very bottom and check out our mentorship or our mentor interest form. And please do complete that. And we will keep your information on file for the future. We'd love to have your participation as a mentor. So, for those of you who have seen the Horse Racing Hangouts before, you know that I'm always asking you to send your questions and comments. And you can do that by, if you're watching this stream right now, you're watching it live, you can comment on the stream and send us your questions that way. And then I can actually bring them right up on the screen for our guests to answer your questions. Please don't wait to do that until the very end, because by the time we get to an hour, everybody's like, we're ready to go to bed. We're working hard around here. We got early mornings. So please send us your questions and comments. To further encourage you to send your questions, it has to be a question. It can't just be a comment. If you send a question, I will put you in a drawing. I'm going to be giving away 3 of these guides to careers in horse racing, which Amplify put together in collaboration with the Harness Horse Youth Foundation. So it's really cool. It's a very comprehensive guide to careers in both the thoroughbred industry and the standardbred industry. So remember, if you ask a question tonight, you can win one of these. So please ask your questions. So getting back to the topic tonight, thoroughbred breeding farm operations. I wanted to invite really 2 different types of thoroughbred industry professionals who both work very closely at thoroughbred farms, but work in different capacities, because I want you all to be able to see and understand the hands-on aspect of the farm and the more managerial, executive-like thoroughbred farm, and how they connect, and be able to see the bigger picture of, a thoroughbred farm is not just like a little dog and pony show, like got your couple of people and let's roll on. It really involves a big team of people who work cohesively together. So I'm so excited to be joined by our professionals for tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to read you their bios, as I always like to do, and then we'll bring them on screen. Case Clay is currently Chief Commercial Officer at Three Chimneys Farm, which is here in Kentucky, and serves other clients, Case serves other clients both domestically and internationally via Case Clay Thoroughbred Management. Previously, upon receiving a degree in economics at DePauw University, Case spent a year abroad at both the Irish National Stud and Arrowfield Stud in Australia, which is awesome. We're going to talk to him about that. In addition, he spent 6 years in Chicago working at Arlington Park, Ernst & Young, and the Hyatt Corporation in the marketing sector. He is currently a board member of the Breeders' Cup and board chairman for the Kentucky Equine Education Project. I also work for KEEP, the Kentucky Equine Education Project, as their education coordinator. So if anybody has any questions about that, do let me know. And then we have Miss Sabrina Moore. She is 29. She is awesome and has accomplished so much already. She is Maryland born and raised, and she's a first-generation horsewoman. She's also co-owner and manager of Greenmount Farm and Sales in Maryland. Greenmount Farm started in 2012, and they've bred notable horses, including multiple Grade 1 winner Nick Sco, who we're going to have her talk about. And they've foaled stakes winner and graded stakes performer I Get It, and foaled, raised, and sold graded stakes performer Postnup. Sabrina is also a board member of the Maryland Horse Breeders Association. So without further ado, welcome to our guests for tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Gosh, no, this is going to be great. It's going to be a super awesome conversation. So I think first off, and I'm going to start with you, Case. Tell us your story. I always like to start by learning about how our guests who we have come on became interested in the thoroughbred industry, and then how you decided to take those next steps to get involved.
Well, thank you for having me on. I actually grew up at Three Chimneys Farm. My parents founded it in 1972. And when I grew up, I thought I worked on the farm. It was my summer jobs, worked on the farm, in the barns and mucking out and all that. And but after college, I wanted to do something different than the horse business, and worked at Arlington Park, even though that's a racetrack, for a couple years, and then it closed down. And then I worked in accounting at Ernst & Young, and then in the marketing sector in Chicago. And long story short, I just was kind of drawn back to the aspect of working in a family business. So moved back with my wife and got involved. Well, before I went back to Three Chimneys, I went to the Irish National Stud, which, there are various programs around the world, whether it's KEME or the Kentucky Equine Management
Internship.
Internship. Thank you. Or Darley Flying Start, or Irish National Stud, or the English National Stud. There are plenty of programs, whether they be local, national, or international. And that was a great way to get some international horse racing experience and learn kind of what they do over there on the farm or at the racetrack that's different. Did that for 6 months, and then went to work for Arrowfield Stud in Australia for 6 months before returning back to Kentucky. So to answer your question, it was more of a grew up literally in the business, wanted to kind of, I thought it was a good experience actually growing up in it to get away from it for a little while, mm-hmm. and then make a decision to come back.
So I have two follow-up questions to that. So, I know a lot of people go abroad to gain more value in the thoroughbred industry, and some people out there might be wondering, well, why, if we have it here in the US, why would I go somewhere else like Australia or Ireland? What value did you find in those experiences?
Well, when I went to Ireland, I'd never heard anybody. Growing up in Kentucky, a lot of people in the U.S., not in the horse business, would just make fun of us. Right? We're kind of country boys and don't wear shoes to school and that sort of thing. And it was the first time I heard someone say that was in my program. She was from Ireland. She said, "I've always wanted to go to Kentucky. Someday I want to go to Kentucky." So it made me appreciate Kentucky more. That it is a great part of the horse world. I also learned that as far as reproduction and horses and horse husbandry and management, there's not a ton that's different. But in Australia, there is a lot that's different because of the climate mainly. The horse mares, foals are born outside. There's a lot more done outside because of the climate, and so that was that was kind of a neat thing to see, that different parts of the world do things a little bit differently, but at the same time, it's all the same. You're trying to get mares pregnant, and a lot of it is very similar wherever it's done in the world.
I hope you won't mind me asking this, but I've also been told that you were a comedian for a while.
Yeah, I was when I was in Chicago. I wasn't funny enough to get paid to do it. So my day job was in those three places you mentioned in Chicago. But at night, yeah, I did that, and met a lot of great people. Had a lot of fun doing it. And now I'm in the horse business.
You're good, Sabrina. And one of the things I try to talk about too, or highlight on these episodes, because there might be people out there watching who don't currently work with horses. They don't work in the thoroughbred industry, but they might be wondering how they can apply some of their skills that they're gaining in other ways to the equine industry. And so did you learn from, like, what did you gain from that experience of being a comedian that applies back to the thoroughbred industry, if anything? Like, did that help at all with public speaking? I'd imagine that, you have to do, speak on behalf of the farm from time to time. Did you find that there was, any crossover in skills there?
Yeah, definitely. It was valuable from the public speaking part of it, for sure. And then, there was a lot of thinking on your feet, and in the horse business, for sure, you have to think on your feet. So, but the public speaking part of it was definitely made me feel more comfortable. You're up on stage doing comedy. You can pretty much do anything. You're making a fool out of yourself, and we always make fools of ourselves in the horse industry because horses always make fools of us, for sure. So. Yeah,
that's awesome. It's a good reminder of, never take yourself too seriously, and especially in this industry, you certainly can't.
No, absolutely not.
Lots of highs and lows. Sabrina, how about you? Tell us your story. I actually got to hear your story last week when you spoke to the.
Can you hear me okay, Niece?
Yes, I can hear you now. You're great. You're good.
Okay, perfect. You guys are breaking up. So my story, I started out just liking horses. My mom was in love with them when she was younger. She would take us trail riding and things like that. I'm one.
Whoops. I think that we might have lost her again. So I'm just going to kick on to the next question with you, Case. Okay. I mean, Amplify has really been honing in on the whole mentorship side of things, but because that's something that a lot of times people bring up, is there were key people who they encountered along that journey of building their career in the horse racing industry, who really mentored them and helped to usher them, into a certain role or provided a certain connection. So were there any mentors who were really valuable to you along the way as you were getting going?
Yes, very much so. I'd say John Massara at Arrowfield Stud would be the main one. He's been and continues to be an extremely valuable mentor, and I'm glad that Amplify is doing that, because it's so important we were helped along the way with mentors, and so it's a great way of giving back, and it's a great way for people to get in, and you can ask, there's no such thing as a dumb question, but with a mentor, you can feel like you can ask anything, and not feel stupid about it. So that's great. And then it's not just as a young person. So Three Chimneys Farm was sold in 2013, and new management came along, and so Doug Cawthon continues to be a mentor to me, and I learn a lot from him. So and I'm 47, so it's not just something where you're 20 something or 18 and you have a mentor. You can get new mentors along the way. But I'd say John Massara from the very beginning, and Dan Rosenberg, who was the farm manager at Three Chimneys when I was a kid and a teenager.
Do you remember something specific that they taught you, or a piece of advice that any of those mentors gave to you that has really stuck and helped to guide you over the years?
Yeah, so the two would be that really stick out are, if you have bad news that you need to deliver, which is, there's a lot of bad news in the horse business. Horses get hurt. They'll continue to find ways to do something, and there's going to be bad news. So whether it's delivering it to an owner, if you're boarding a horse for someone or working for them, or really, if you're delivering bad news to an owner, do it first thing. Don't put it off. And this isn't necessarily in the horse business. This is really in anything. But just get it over with. Just call them, deliver the bad news, because otherwise you're going to be stressing about it all day. And then the other one was actually from Doug. Is just be very deliberate in making decisions. I guess this is also not necessarily in the horse business, but the horse business is an expensive business. And so, sleeping on things, sleeping on decisions, really gathering as much information as you possibly can. So if you're making if you're going to breed, trying to decide on a stallion to breed your mare to, instead of just kind of going with whatever's the popular choice, really put a lot of thought into it. And I'm excited that Sabrina's on here, because Nick's Go is an incredible horse, and the fact that they bred that horse is just outstanding. So I'd like to know more from her when she gets back on, like what kind of thought went into that. But those are the two main things. If you're going to deliver bad news, do it right away, and really put a lot of thought into decision making.
I think it's great to give pieces of advice, or to have those, pieces of wisdom that aren't necessarily just applicable to the horse business, that are more broad, because then people out there who maybe aren't working in the industry yet can start to think about, well, how can I start to apply some of these things, or hone my strategic thinking and decision making in other ways before they take that step into the industry. And that's actually a good segue with Nick's Go to try Sabrina again.
I just had to go about my truck Wi-Fi. It works better out here.
You have truck Wi-Fi? Is that a thing? Like vehicle Wi-Fi?
Yeah, it works better than what's in the house, so that works.
Yeah, I'm behind the times here. I'm like, wow, modern technology these days. Wi-Fi in the vehicle.
It's not bad.
Okay, so let's go back to your story and how you became involved in the industry. And then we also talked a bit about mentors. I understand there was a mentor you talked about when I saw you last week, who was pretty instrumental in building your career.
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, I've just always been interested in horses, and then I've always had them just kind of as hobbies. I went through high school, and I was kind of stumbling upon what I want to do as far as a career. And I just, I never applied for anywhere. I was in and out of community college, but I just kept picking up horse jobs. And I knew I really liked the racetrack. And at first I thought I wanted to be an exercise rider. but that was very short lived. But I fell in love with the thoroughbred horse industry all in all. So I was trying to figure out how we could make it, or how I could make it profitable for me, so that that I could do this for the rest of my life. And somebody actually recommended, well, why don't you consign and why don't you breed? And we bred a little bit at that time. My mom was involved in some partnerships, but never anything serious. So we that's when I got involved with Bill Reitler. So, up here, it's, not like Kentucky. We have a couple really influential horsemen and women, but, it's kind of hard to get your feet wet. And at that time, I was telling the kids, Anise was there. There's not a lot of programs out there. And I'm talking about almost 15 years ago. So, it was really hard for me, from not coming from a horse family, to try to find somebody that, would take me on. So Bill Reitler, he really helped me. He got, a lot of our mares lined up, what we should sell, what I should do. It kind of just unfolded from there. But he was a huge part of getting, me and my farm started.
So before we dive too much more into that, because I have some other follow-up questions on that, we have a question from Ashley Marcy. Hey, Ashley. I know Ashley was one of the attendees at the careers program last week. So for someone who can't commit to full-time or even very consistent part-time work yet, what are some ways to be periodically involved in the thoroughbred industry to gain experience until that is possible? That's a great question. Because there might be a lot of people out there who are like, I'm not in a position right now to be diving into a full-time job, but how do I keep working on, building my knowledge or building my experience?
Well, I think, sorry, I just kind of butted in on that one, but
no, you're good.
From even just if you're looking at hands-on experience, the best way, I think, is, I hire seasonal help all the time. Because, I have sales season and prep season, and it's really busy. And then, I'll roll into these kind of in-betweens where I'm not. So, there are some seasonal positions that you could definitely get involved with. I think, like you said, just as long as you're upfront about, what your availability is, I think there's definitely options for you as far as farm help.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say the same thing, whether it's just working at sales, or sales yearling prep. Farms are hiring, kind of to get horses ready for the sales, or just the sales. And there's some really good people that work at the sales, and they're kind of coveted once they're, show that they're good, that consigners really want to use them. So that's a good way to do it.
So can both of you guys kind of talk about, and in case I'm going to have you get started with this question, what happens in a year at a thoroughbred farm? So we've just wrapped up with breeding season, but we're all kind of throwing around terms like sales and sales prep and things that people might not quite know about yet. So starting with January, walk me through a whole year at a thoroughbred farm and what that looks like.
So it can be broken down seasonally. So January 1st is when the foaling season starts up in the Northern Hemisphere. And so from January to June, all the way to June, you're going to be having babies on a thoroughbred farm. And then starting Valentine's Day, the breeding shed's open. So while you're having babies, you're also taking mares to the shed to breed. So if you have stallions on that farm, then you have a stallion division that's taking in the mares and breeding them, and the broodmare division is taking those mares to the shed while they're also foaling out. So there's, as Sabrina can tell you, there's not a lot of sleep going on between during the foaling season, which is January 1st to like June 1st. Then what we were just talking about was the sales. So we're just kind of starting sales prep, which is getting yearlings ready for the yearling sale. And the first big one is next month in Lexington. And so from July to kind of September timeframe, October timeframe are the yearling sales. And then November's kind of the big broodmare sale. at Keeneland. And then December's kind of, I guess, Sabrina, would you agree? Like 2 weeks before Christmas is kind of the only quiet time.
A little bit. Not if you're, well, up here we have the December sale for phasing. It's not really.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
Come on. And then, you know, and then if you're prepping for January and getting ready for January,
true.
It never stops. It, like Kay said, it's kind of seasonally. That's how I mentally handle it. But it is, I mean, it's all year round. But yeah, and it feels like just when you're done December, then like Kay said, January 1st, you know, mares are rolling in if they're not already, you know, you're not already watching them. So
yeah. It's kind of like you have to take it one season at a time, take a deep breath, get on to the next thing. And that's really funny because that's another thing I wanted to talk about tonight is that, you know, Sabrina, you're in Maryland, Case, you're here in Kentucky, and you guys are also both at very different farms. So Greenmount doesn't have stallions. So what does, you know, how does your year look different, Sabrina, from maybe Case's year at Three Chimneys?
Yeah, well, aside from just the sheer volume, you know, I'm a very small farm. We hardly ever have over 30 horses. But, you know, we have less help too because of that. But aside from just not having a stallion stand there, we're doing, you know, the same thing. So, you know, I'm still foaling mares, still taking mares to the shed, you know, teasing every day. I mean, it gets exhausting. It's, you know, it's just, it's a part of it, but I mean, we're all pretty much the same, like I said, except for the volume, which I'm very fortunate about. And that's how I kind of, you know, designed it. I didn't want to get too big or too crazy. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
And how many mares do you have that you own?
That I own? I own 3 of my own.
Okay. And you bred mixed go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm blessed, very blessed. I got very lucky. Yeah.
I love that horse, and really, it's because he, in a weird way, he's beaten us so many times.
Oh,
you know. So
well, he's also gotten beat plenty of times too, so we've had our fair share.
Well, he's a great horse. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So earlier, Sabrina, I think this was when you popped off for a little bit. Case was talking about, you know, some of the key pieces of advice that he's received from mentors over the years, and that a big piece was decision making, you know, strategic thinking. And he brought up mixed go and was wondering about how you selected that mating and what went into your thought process there.
So Bill Reitler, he's always done my my mating selections, and you know, I give him my mares and the foaling dates, and then we kind of come up with what we think are the best possible and commercial matches for my budget. So, you know, unfortunately, you know, I'm not a baller, so I don't have my stud fee you know, limit isn't huge, but you know, ideally what we try to do is pick a freshman sire and you know, hope that it's fancy enough and it's going to get enough attention at the sales, with also complementing, you know, the mare's pedigree and conformation and things like that. So actually, I tried to get the painter the first year that he was at stud, and then, you know, it had a couple complications, but Windstar was, you know, really nice, and, you know, they were like, well, why don't you come back? You know, I really liked dealing with them through the whole process, and, you know, we booked her back to that or to painter again. But Bill's process through selecting painter for her, you know, he felt like he had a good buzz about him. You know, she was short, he ran longer, he was fast, she was fast. We just thought it would work out well. And like I said, we were, you know, for my budget at the time, we thought it was going to be okay. But, you know, he didn't turn out to be the most commercial horse. So in hindsight, probably wasn't the wisest decision on that, you know, spectrum. But I mean, it worked out in the long run. So
yeah,
it's pretty amazing. Gosh.
Yeah. Very lucky.
So another reason why I brought you guys both on is because you both work, you have very different roles. You're both involved in thoroughbred farms, but in different ways. So I'd love it if you would each describe, what a typical work day is like for you. I mean, I know that that's different depending on the season, but maybe what some of your daily and then yearly duties sort of look like depending on the season. Case, I'll have you start.
So I'm more on the kind of relationship management side, marketing side of Three Chimneys. So there's Chris Baker, he runs the operations. Doug Cawthon does mainly the bloodstock work along with the owners, the Toriavas. And each of the stallions have shareholders. So the stallions are like little companies and they've got shareholders. And so a lot of the time I'm talking with them, communicating, liaising with the shareholders. And we also, Three Chimneys also has partners in the racehorses. So Three Chimneys will sell about 50% of the value of the yearlings each year and keep 50% of the value and race each year. And a lot of them are 50-50 partners with various people. So liaising with them, the partners at Three Chimneys. And then when the sales come along, kind of helping out that way. So those are mainly my roles at Three Chimneys.
And Sabrina, how about for you? You, from my understanding, you're much more hands-on with the horses, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm there every day. And like you said, just depending on the season, I do all my own foal watching and foaling. And then it's just, your regular everyday stuff from there. I guess I'm the bookkeeper too. And I deal with clients. I pretty much, and same thing, like recruiting for sales and trying to line up yearlings, prepping all the yearlings. I do have 2 other people that help me at the farm, so that's great. But pretty much, I just try to stick to the managing side. I mean, but like you said too, I mean, all the hands-on stuff. I mean, I like I said, all my foalings I'm there for. Prepping all the yearlings, I do them every day when it's, that season. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. But it's like I said, every day, making sure nothing goes wrong.
That's pretty much about it. That's basically, I do it all. I coordinate it all.
Well, it's like when you put it out on paper, it's not a lot to write home about, but it's a lot.
Man, how do either of you guys have any energy? Like, it is a lot of work. That's one thing I try to enforce with every episode, is that working in the thoroughbred industry it is inherently a lot of work, regardless of what division you're in, what your position is. It's the nature of working with horses. They are a constant thing. But yeah, you do a lot for sure.
Tell everybody from January to June, just don't call me. I can't. Yeah. I'm busy.
Oh gosh. So, and this is going to have some similarities for both of you, but maybe some differences as well, since Greenmount is quite a bit smaller than Three Chimneys. But explain the different farm divisions and the teams required to make those work. Case, I'll have you kick it off and maybe talk about the Stallions first and what all goes into that.
So they're different departments at Three Chimneys. So there's the Stallion department with the Stallion manager. That's Sandy Hatfield. She's been there for a long time. She's the best. And then there's a maintenance department. So a lot of Three Chimneys operates on about 800 acres, and so there's lots of fence posts and grass to mow and that sort of thing. So that's the facilities maintenance part of it. So each division is compartmentalized. There's a broodmare manager. There are 58 mares on the farm, and so there's a broodmare manager there and a yearling manager. And then like an accountant. So they're different divisions, and then Chris is the operations manager, the COO. So they will meet weekly. and just kind of get together and put their heads together and what's happening in each department. But yeah, they're each compartmentalized and kind of run their own way with Chris overseeing it.
And Sabrina, for you, since you do a lot on your own, has there been anything that you found that makes it easier for you to manage it all or communicate with those that you're working with, or, you know, certain programs for your accounting that has made it easier for you? How do you manage all of that without having a big team to connect with?
Yeah, well, QuickBooks is your friend for sure. That's the best thing. Well, for me, for a small business. But other than just showing up and making sure you're there every day and communicating with, you know, your employees and making sure, you know, we're all human. Everyone can make mistakes, and you know, I know my horses and my program the best. So just making sure that you're there and on top of things. But you know, it's kind of, I tell everybody, everything, it does change a little bit every day, but the principle's the same. The horses need fed, the stalls need clean, and everyone needs to be safe and healthy. So, you know, and depending on the season, you know, what we're prioritizing, whether it's the mares and foals first, and then the yearlings, or the yearlings and then the mares and foals, that's the only thing that really changes all year.
Sorry, guys. I need to close this shade. It's like doing
I know, well, it's funny,
this, blinding me.
It's already dark here.
It's the sun just, I can't escape it today. So I'm just going to hang out here and you guys can see my bike. Anyways. Okay. I guess we're kind of like getting down to the end of things. Again, another reminder to all of you out there watching, don't forget, you can send your questions and comments. Do not save them to the last second, as some people always like to do. So don't forget that you can comment on this feed and I will ask Case and Sabrina your question. But as we kind of wind down to the end, and this is one of my favorite questions, what is your most important piece of advice for someone who is maybe starting from ground zero, has no experience getting into this, but they want to work at a thoroughbred farm? What is that piece of advice that they need to have in mind as they get started? Sabrina, you can kick us off.
I think, you know, probably the most important thing is just showing up. I mean, I don't know about you guys, Case, but I mean, it's been really hard to find people just to even work right now. And I think that's one thing that I've always had a little bit of an edge over a lot of people, is that, you know, you just never quit. You show up, you know, if you have your word, you give it to them. And another thing is what you guys are doing. You're creating mentorship programs. Like, I mean, if I didn't have a mentor, I mean, I would have been nowhere. I would have no guidance at all. You know, especially for me, not coming from a horse family, that was huge. And, you know, Bill has had tons of kids come in and out, and as have I, you know, and a lot of them don't stick around. But, you know, just voicing your curiosity and showing that you really want to learn, you know, that sticks out to a lot of people, especially when they're donating their time trying to help you, you know? So I think that's the best thing that you can start to do, and just gaining experience. I Googled a lot of stuff. I read a lot of books. I tried to work a lot of jobs at a lot of different places to get different perspectives and what to do, what not to do, what I liked, what I didn't like. Yeah, you know, I worked at the track. I worked at a breaking farm. You know, you just kind of got to get your feet wet and then figure out what you like, what makes you happy, and go from there.
Yeah. I don't know what I would have done without mentors. That's for sure. Case, how about for you? What is your piece of advice?
That's great advice. You're right, Sabrina. Right now is a really great time to try and get in the horse business, because there is a shortage of people right now, and so don't give up. Show up. I also agree with that. Try and work in as many parts of the business as you can. So maybe you run into a brick wall on a horse farm and they're not hiring. Go to the racetrack and try and get some racetrack experience. Go to the vet clinics. Try and get some wherever you can go. And then if you're going to try and create a body of work or like a resume, try and get as many of those different places, whether it's the sales or a horse farm or the racetrack or the vet clinic. Try and get as many of those as you can. And yeah, the mentor thing is huge. And just be respectful and nice to people, and they'll, if you're respectful and nice to people and you don't give up, you'll eventually find a mentor. And through Amplify, you can find a mentor, and then just keep going. Don't give up. If you run into an obstacle, there will be lots of obstacles in the horse business. And so more than probably other industries. So don't get discouraged by those obstacles in the horse business.
So along that note, we now have another question. Thank you guys. Keep sending those questions by Salvatore Girofalo. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but thank you so much for tuning in. Do you guys recommend going to school for equine science before getting hands-on? And yeah, what are your opinions on going to school? Do you feel that it's important?
Who's going first on this?
You did the last one first, so I'll take this one first.
Okay.
I think that like formal education for equine is not. It's great, but it's not absolutely necessary to get a job in the horse business. By doing stuff hands-on, you do get to spend when you work on a horse farm, you do get to spend time with a vet at some point and just fire questions away and almost kind of make your own equine science education as you meet people and talk to people. So I don't think it's critical. There are great programs out there, don't get me wrong, but if your situation doesn't allow it, it's not, I wouldn't be discouraged. I would just kind of make your own education by asking as many questions as possible and utilizing the internet and those resources.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think even actually in this day and age, I think you're better off going and getting a degree in marketing or business or something of that sort. And still, I mean, I can't speak for myself because I never went to school. But I mean, I think in those times, like you said, summer or in between classes, then go work, like you said, at your sales or, lay up farm or ride along with a vet, do something like that. I think you'll get a lot more hands-on experience doing that. I've had some kids that have come out of those equine science programs. And I mean, I was just surprised that they didn't have more hands-on. But like Kay said, I mean, there's plenty of programs that are really good. But I just feel like you can get more experience actually, working at a farm and then just have a secondary something, because I mean, all of the office jobs right now, I mean, are just unbelievable with a lot of these bigger farms. They really need, like you said, marketing and things like that. So that's what I wish I would have done anyways.
I think that's one of the great things about the equine industry is you can sort of pick your own path or make your own journey. Like I didn't study anything equine. My parents said they didn't want me to have any sort of equine degree. That was just their preference for me. They wanted me to have, applied skills and experiences, but I had a mentor who said that it was really important for me to get internship experience, which is exactly what I did. But, there are options like apprenticeship. So if you don't feel like getting a university degree is for you, there's actually an equine apprenticeship that you can pursue where you're basically you can earn money, you're working and learning at the same time. You have to show, a level of competency and different skills in the equine industry, and you complete a certain number of hours. You do have educational components, but it wouldn't be as full on or intense as getting a university degree. It would be more going straight into the workforce. So that's absolutely an option. There are lots of internships out there that will not rule you out. If you don't have an equine science degree, you can still do an equine internship. So lots of options in that area. So thank you so much for that question.
Anise, who was your mentor?
It's a great question. I have two mentors who really, really stand out in my mind. I have a great story about the person who I would really consider my first true mentor, and his name is Mike Schmitz, and he's the former general manager of the North Dakota Horse Park, which is the first racetrack that was basically where I was introduced to racing. And I sent him this very formal email that was like, "Dear Mr. Schmitz, I would really, I would love to sit down for an informational interview about working at the North Dakota Horse Park." And he called me and he's like, "Yeah, you're hired. You're going to be the director of communications." And I was 19 at the time. I was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." Sent this guy my resume, but I took myself seriously. I presented myself very seriously, and with that, he took me very seriously and was willing to give me probably more responsibility than I could handle at the time. Like he always gave me a challenge, but with that challenge, I felt like he had a lot of faith in me, which he did. And I remember there was actually one of my first jobs in the industry, one of my first big internships where I was moving more into when I moved up to work for the Saratoga Special, another one of my internships, I was so overwhelmed. And I thought, man, this is the first time I've got to go interview Todd Pletcher. I'm about to, man, I don't know. I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. And I remember calling Mike and telling him, I think, Mike, this is the first time that I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, I don't think that this is for me. And he gave me the best pump up speech ever. And it just totally turned that summer around for me. And I had the time of my life and went back for a second summer. So that was a very specific story, but I still call him for advice or to talk through complex situations, or when I need guidance in certain ways. So he was a great mentor who I can say I would not be where I am today without having had him in my life.
That's great.
Yeah. So mentors, very, very important. Yeah. But I've had a lot along the way. And I, just as you reflected on earlier, Case, different stages of your career, you meet new mentors, you stay connected with previous ones, and you add to your amazing network of people who are there to help guide you and support you.
Yeah.
Which is very valuable.
That's right.
Gosh, do you guys have any last questions for each other? Any last pieces of advice? Or actually, to end this, I want to hear both of your all-time favorite highlight moment of being part of the thoroughbred industry. Something that just got you so excited and thinking, wow, this is why I'm here. This is why I do what I do. Sabrina, you go first on that.
I have way too many, to be honest with you. Obviously the Nixco things were really cool, but
explain to those out there who might not be as familiar with Nixco. What were those Nixco things? Those big moments?
Like I said, Case mentioned earlier, I breed just a few mares a year, and we bred a grade 1 winner, Nixco. He's made, just lost how many millions of dollars. I've lost track. No. But he's just really accomplished some amazing things, and he's jumped up there and been a big horse and has performed well. And as Case mentioned earlier, there's a lot of highs and lows with it. I sold the mare. That wasn't very fun, before he won his grade 1. Didn't think he was going to do that. But when he actually got his Breeders' Cup win, I was like super emotional for that. Oh God, man. But and all those grade 1s, they were just unbelievable. Something I never thought I'd be able to accomplish ever in my life. But things that really hit me more than Paget the other day at the when we were doing the
Maryland Thoroughbred Cruise Program.
When I get compliments and things like that, it really, your hard work is paying off and people are noticing. Those are the things that validate me, and that I know that, I feel like I belong here and that I'm doing a good job, and, you know, that people respect you, you know, and I mean, because that's really what it's all about is, you know, you take a lot of pride and time in your horses and your program and your work, and for other people to recognize it is huge. So those are the things that really hit home for me.
Case, how about you? What was your big moment?
So I think that whenever a horse that I'm somehow connected to, and that's another great thing about the horse business is there's so many people that's connected to one horse, you know, whether it be the hot walker or the trainer or the owner or the person that broke the horse, the pre-training exercise rider. Everybody's all in, and so that moment. There've been a couple moments in the Kentucky Derby, but it's really any race when they're coming around the quarter pole and they're coming down the stretch and your horse has a real chance to win. That's an incredible feeling. That's really hard to explain until you've had it, and until you've had it. And you could be a young person out there that works sales prep in the summer, and you'd be rubbing on a horse, and that horse ends up winning the Kentucky Derby. You never know. It could happen. So it's not, you don't have to own the horse to be emotionally connected to it.
Yeah.
And so I would say that the main thing is when a horse that you're connected to wins a race, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've always said too, and especially after those Knicks Goes wins, I'm like, I just can't believe how fortunate I am to be in an industry, in a job that, and like Kay said, I mean, it's an unbelievable feeling. It's unexplainable until it happens to you. You'll know. But, I know I would never get that feeling sitting behind a desk. And, just to, like, we're all so lucky to be involved in a sport that, I mean, just sets you high and above like that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I mean, for anybody thinking about getting into the industry, I mean, those are just, the things to look forward to. And, you have a lot, like I said, there's a lot of highs, there's a lot of lows, but they make it all worth it. And it's just a really special place to be. So hopefully you draw a lot of people in, Anise. It's been, I think, like I said, this program is just really neat. And I think it's a good outlet for anybody that's trying to look to get into it.
Well, thank you guys so much. I think that's a great note to end it on. I really appreciate you both being here to talk with us about this tonight. And, best of luck. I mean, we can all use luck in this industry in different ways. And, have a great summer. I hope we all cross paths in person now that we can all be in person again.
Yeah,
so
great. Look forward to seeing you all in person.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys.
Great.
See you guys soon. Well, guys, that makes another episode of the Amplify Horse Racing Hangouts. I hope you enjoyed listening to Case Clay and Sabrina Moore, both very wise and experienced people working in, the thoroughbred industry in 2 different states. I hope that you learned a lot about what it's like to work on a thoroughbred breeding farm and got some insight into what different farm divisions look like, what different positions are required. As always, if you have any follow-up questions, please contact me at info@amplifyhorseracing.org. Don't forget to check out the mentorship program at amplifyhorseracing.org/mentorship. And you can follow us on all of our social media channels. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I probably forgot one, but we're out there. So thank you all so much and have a great